Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS here with Rachelle. We're on Fitness Friday. It is always the best day of the week. Gotta love it. And folks, this is the last episode concluding this series here on confidence. Got some more story times for you and wanted to certainly kick this episode off. You may be looking at me thinking, okay Rachelle, last week's episode, you had the old school Walkman from the 80s along with the big headphones that were common back in the day, and now you've got on AirPods Pro and you have a Amazon Fire Stick in your hand. So which is it? Are you old school? Are you new school? Are you hybrid? Which is it? And so I wanted to kick off with my first story time, and I had to keep him in my ear, kick off this episode with him in my ear, because my brother, gotta tell you about my brother and how my brother pulls me along in terms of bringing me and making me aware of new technology. And without him, certainly you wouldn't be watching this episode, because actually it was my brother Oscar who said, you gotta get on the book. Back in 2014, I remember he was at Fort Bragg at the time. He was stationed at Fort Bragg. You gotta get on the book. You gotta get on the book. And you know, I'm not on social media, so I vehemently opposed it. But he was absolutely right from a professional standpoint. I'm so glad I made that decision. And so, got to tell you about my brother. And so, for Christmas, this past Christmas, my brother got me these, and he said, I got you these so you can wear them to the gym. So see, once again, my brother tries to upgrade my technology. And one thing you will notice is in the gym, I actually wear traditional earbuds that you certainly plug into my ears that have the cord that wrap around the back. Because, and see, when my brother got me these for Christmas, he was unaware that I have a tendency to lose things, particularly when I'm in a hurry and I'm rushing. So these do not leave my house. So these are used here at Rachelle's Home Fitness Center, certainly Zoom calls, things like that. But I know one of them would end up some random place, either inside or outside of the gym. And so I just had to kick off this episode by mentioning, my brother was bringing me up to speed with some new technology, but was unaware of my proclivity to lose such things. So it's just so funny. I got the new technology, but you're not going to see it unless we're on a Zoom call or something like that. In this Fire Stick. And I remember on a non-Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS back in 2017, early 2017. So at Christmas of 2016, my brother got me this Fire Stick, got me a Fire Stick. And so he said, Rachelle, you love documentaries, and that is so true. And so you would just love the Fire Stick, and I'm a member of Amazon Prime, so Prime Video is wonderful. And so this is another case where, he would drag me kicking and streaming into the adaptation of technology, where I am just very grateful, because I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but when my TV is on, it's Amazon Prime Video or YouTube. And literally, it used to be about a 90% split between with Amazon Prime Video, about 90%, 10% YouTube, but now it's totally flipped. So YouTube, just documentaries and just lectures, and I just love the educational content on YouTube, and I'm just so grateful, so grateful. And I think people hate to ask me when I mention that I'm watching YouTube or I saw something great on YouTube. They're probably expecting me to say something totally different than the content that I consume, certainly on that streaming service, such as some great things on YouTube. Like one night I was watching a documentary called Riding the Dog, and so it was based in the 80s, where an individual, they were profiling Greyhound buses. And so an individual was traveling from Spokane, Washington to Chicago. And then another day I was watching, elderly inmates who were serving life terms in prison. So it just my mind, I just have this wide array of interest and content that I'm interested in. But so my brother, and then my brother did it to me again. So I get a text on my birthday with Apple Pay. My brother sent me an Apple Pay gift, and so he subsequently sent me a YouTube video on how to actually set up Apple Pay, because I didn't have a clue. Set up Apple Pay and how to use it and all of that. So see, my brother just pulls me along, kicking, dragging, and screaming in terms of adapting new technology. And so I just had to kick off this episode about highlighting that, brother is certainly an unsung hero in my life and just such a wonderful influence along the years, and along the way, and then throughout the years. And so I had to kick off with my brother. And so another story time I wanted to share is going back to the self-image. So we talked last week about two or three instances where there's some self-image where, I wanted to be have big bust, a big chest like Dolly Parton, and so it was gonna get breast enhancement surgery as soon as I could, and that never happened. And so, but anyway, you just gotta learn. You gotta accept yourself. We'll highlight that more towards the end of this episode. But my feet. So I wear a size 10. I wear a size 10. So 5'7", 5'10". So I have big feet. Just for lack of a better word, I have big feet. And so for a long time, that used to really bother me. Probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years, 15 years ago, they used to kind of bother me because the selection in shoe stores, whether you're going to a brick and mortar store in person or shopping online, is certainly tougher when you have big feet, particularly, as a female wearing a size 10. And so it totally, when I was shopping online the other day, or just browsing online. And so there's always the cutest selection of shoes. And then, you click on the size, and then it's like a size 7, that used to be a little dream of mine. I just wish I could wear a size 7. Back in the day, I used to feel that way. But it's the funny part of it is, folks, is that when I click on my size, the selection goes from like this, from a size 7 or even a size 8 or a size 6 or 6.5 to this. And so it is just so funny. And the other day I was cracking up and I said, see, it's all fun and games when you wear a size 7 and you're looking for shoes, but when you enter that size 10, your selection's about to be decreased big time, either in bricks and mortar, in person shopping, or online. So, but that used to be a big thing for me. And guess what? There's absolutely nothing that we can do about the size of our feet. So we just gotta accept ourselves, folks. So I had to kick off with that particular episode. Another funny one that I look back on that I'm actually so surprised that I listened to. Because again, as a teenager, I was like, I know it all, and I told you about, the struggles I had in my ROTC class, being a nonconformist then and now. And makeup. I was so excited at the prospect of wearing makeup. And so when I say that, I mean foundation. And so let me preface this by saying makeup is a wonderful thing, does wonderful things. For many people, love it. Millions, multiplied millions around the world love it. Wonderful. Rock on. Wear it. Rock it. But in my instance, I was so excited, like, I get to start wearing makeup. It's great. And let me tell you what my mom told me. This is surprising what I actually listened to her. And she said, Rachelle, you can wear makeup. That's fine. That's wonderful. That's great. And she was speaking specifically of foundation. She said, well, let me tell you something. Let me give you a warning. Once you start wearing makeup, especially in terms of foundation, you need to be prepared to wear it for the rest of your life. Or at least until you're much older and you may just stop wearing it then. But you are going to look very bad without it, because you're going to kind of create a look, and then it's going to be very different when you don't have it on. And so she told me that, and I remember thinking like, yeah, right, whatever. But it's amazing that I actually listened to her. And so you may have noticed that I only wear lipstick and mascara. And so it's been like that for years and years. I actually never, started wearing foundation or anything like that. Like I said, it's a wonderful thing. A lot of people love it, but it's amazing that I listened to her. And even dermatologists have told me, like, you have really good skin. And I tell people, fitness does wonders in many different respects. The ability to stay hydrated and things like that. But that was just another example where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna look good. I'm gonna be so beautiful, putting on makeup and whatever, this and that, and then never did it. Surprisingly so. And that's certainly something, it's just me, which is my lipstick, my mascara, and certainly my lip liner. But just had to share that, and I certainly, looking back, appreciate my mom telling me that, and just really kind of edifying me and encouraging me and blessing me with those words in that particular instance. And so just had to share that. It was a very big thing for me. Next, I have, yes, drinking coffee. long story short, folks, I don't drink coffee, not a coffee drinker. In fact, the smell of coffee, particularly stronger scents of coffee like Starbucks and places like that, upset my stomach. Like I literally can't handle like a strong coffee smell indefinitely. So that's kind of an idiosyncrasy that I have that I'm certainly aware of. And so back in Northwestern, and so I don't drink coffee, but rest assured, folks, I tried to drink coffee. So back when I was a student at Northwestern, and I so remember this. Oh my goodness, I so remember this. And so this was before class, and so people were kind of, in clusters and, kind of chatting and things like that. And so back in the day, we had these vending machines, and so they were like 25 cents for a cup of coffee. And so several people around me were drinking coffee. And then I thought to myself, okay, I know nothing about coffee in terms of cream, what you put in it, whatever, this and that. And so, but I decided, to fit in, once again, everybody around me is drinking coffee, so I need to drink some coffee if I'm going to fit in and if I'm going to be acceptable in this class, in this situation with these people. And so, folks, I drank that coffee. And it was, it just gave me literally, like I just could not handle like the caffeine. And that's definitely an issue with me just in general. I can't, caffeine is something, has to be, very sparingly. And certainly I do get my caffeine from, the occasional milk chocolate candy bar. I will not lie. Rachelle, I'm always going to give you the real deal here on Fitness Friday. But coffee, can handle it. But that was a very big instance. Instead of me just standing in my truth. Remember last time we talked about the importance from a confidence standpoint of standing in your truth, honoring who you are, and not always trying to be like everyone around you. Well, everyone is doing this, so I need to do it. Well, everyone is doing that, so I need to be doing it if I'm going to be acceptable. And so in that particular instance, instead of standing in my truth, which I didn't have the level of confidence, certainly at the time, to just say, what, hey, I didn't even have to say anything. Just sit in my truth and literally sitting down with all these different people, classmates. Just honor my truth, stand in my truth. And I'm not a coffee drinker. Bam, that's it. Who cares? People judge me. People think, well, why is she doesn't drink coffee and she's so energetic and whatever. And I have to tell people I'm naturally caffeinated. Even early in the morning, naturally high energy. So, but just had to share that. How many times in life are we doing things to try to fit in? Okay, that's when we're in high school. Isn't that the norm for the most part? A lot of people try to fit in, be accepted. But folks, well into adulthood, we really need to check ourselves. To borrow from the vernacular, we need to say, what in the world am I doing? Because multiplied millions of people in this country and certainly around the world are just doing a whole bunch of things they don't want to be doing, have no interest in, or not good, for him or her individually, but just trying to do it to fit in, to be part of the group, to fit in and be part of the crowd, folks. So let's be authentic. Let's be real. Let's stand in our truth. And that takes courage, and that certainly takes confidence. So had to share that. Next, and it's amazing that I didn't listen to this either, because I revered my professors. At all three of my universities, all three of my alma maters, revered my professors. So it was like when they spoke and when they had advice, when they shared nuggets of wisdom and things like that, I ate it up. But I had one particular professor who was like, well, you know what, Rachelle, to get ahead in the professional world, you're going to have to learn and master golf. Now, with all due respect to golfers out there, wonderful sport, rock on golfers, keep it going, golf your heart out. But all I'm saying is this: I have had then and certainly have now no interest in learning that game, learning that sport. And so for me to actually kind of ignore that advice and from a time management standpoint, there's only so many, everybody gets the same 24 hours a day. And so the difference is just how we choose to spend those hours. I would rather be spending hours in the gym, on a weekly basis. We all have limited time. Time is finite. So it's a matter of us choosing what we want to do and what we don't want to do. What are our priorities and what aren't our priorities? And so I just remember thinking it is amazing how I kind of stood in the truth over the years, okay. And I remember thinking about it, okay, yeah, that you may feel that way, but I'll prove you wrong. I'll prove you wrong. That I'll be able to get ahead. I'll be able to make things happen without that. And like I said, rock on golfers, keep on keeping on. But even you will admit, if you're a passionate, fervent golfer, even you admit there's things that you don't want to be doing. Somebody could tell you a different game or a different sport, and you just be like, I have no interest in learning chess. I have no interest in learning fencing. I have no interest in learning rugby. So we all have likes and dislikes and things that we're interested in, and so it's important for us to be secure enough, no matter who's saying it or who's telling us, whatever we're looking at somebody, we're looking at a group and all of this and that, to just honor who we are, stand in our truth, and be confident enough to do so. So that was yet another example. Yes, next, Louisiana religious hiatus. So it's very important for you to know that I did have a phase. Church Lady Rachelle, no problem admitting this whatsoever. Church Lady Rachelle had a phase when I lived in Louisiana where I went on a religious hiatus and decided I was going to party. And I'm sure some of you are just laughing, and there's some people watching that know me long enough, and that certainly know me in Louisiana, are like, yeah, she's telling the truth. She tried to party, she tried to be a party girl, but she was a failure at that. She was a failure at that, and I certainly was, because that's just not who I was, and certainly who I am now. But I went through a little short phase, folks, in one particular example that I have to share with you, and this is certainly one of my signature examples when I talk about trying to fit in, not being secure in who you are, and just doing things because other people are doing them and you kind of want to fit in and be accepted. So long story short, so I'm hanging out with some people. I'm hanging out with some nice friends of mine back in the day, and so they were a little bit older than me and just certainly more experienced in terms of drinking and having their alcohol drinking. I mean, in terms of their alcohol habits and likes and dislikes in that regard and this and that. So this was my first time hanging out with them. Nice people, military affiliated people at Barksdale Air Force Base. So wonderful group of people. And so I'm sitting there, and so everybody's going around. Waitress is taking orders, and instead of me just standing in my truth, like, let me just order a regular drink that I really drink, I just decided, I'm gonna look really like nerdy and just like I don't really, have it together if I'm not able to sit here and drink with these individuals. And so what did I do? And so in the heat of the moment, I decided to order a beverage, alcoholic beverage. And so again, I didn't know a lot about alcohol. I mean, I still don't in terms of brands and types and all of that. And so I literally remembered an episode of Cheers. So this was my frame of reference. I had to mentally, and I said, you know what? That person ordered a martini, and that's what I did. That was what I ordered. You know what? Yeah, give me a martini. And I know that lady, looking back now, I know that the waitress must have been thinking like, you know what? A martini? You want a martini? And so I ordered a martini, and then what did she ask me? Do you want it dry or on the rocks? I didn't know what that meant. I did not know what that meant, folks. And so I said, yo, just give it to me dry. And so for the next hour and a half, 2 hours that we were there, here I am, folks, slowly sipping on this martini. And with all due respect to martini drinkers, you may love it, it may be great. But for me personally, again, just we all have our likes and dislikes. That was one of the nastiest things I've ever consumed in my life. I mean, this big olive, and I was just, but again, instead of just taking one sip and setting it down, like, you know what, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have ordered this. Don't even have to say a word, just set it down and just leave it alone for the rest of the night. What did I do? Not being secure in who I was, I'm sitting there sipping along on this, thinking, okay, yeah, well, I gotta look cool, just keep it up, just take an occasional sip so you look like you're part of the group, like what's really going on. And so that was something, that experience certainly I never forgot, and certainly it was funny, looking back now, I mean, it was just funny, just realizing kind of what had happened, but I tried, I tried that little path, and it just, it didn't work out for me, and so I'm back, went back and reverted back to my current path, my original path. And so that was a story that certainly, speaks to the importance of having confidence. Another instance, kind of in the same vein, somewhat in the same vein. So, I I'm an intern, so this is Northwestern University, so I'm doing my summer internship. So in marketing, part of the larger marketing group. And so there is like a marketing conference. Several of my colleagues back in the day, at the time, were going to, maybe 5, 6, 7, part of the marketing team were going. So my immediate supervisor couldn't go. And so she asked me to go in her place. Cool, this will be awesome, going to Baltimore, great, wonderful city. We spent time on the harbor, this and that. So went out to dinner, as a group. And so what happened? At the end of dinner, walking, down the what do you call that, the harbor and all of that area. So my direct supervisors, so she's a marketing manager. So her colleague of a different department or division, what you want to call it, was kind of overseeing the group. And so he says, all right, guys, we're going to go to such and such. I don't even remember the name. It was like a bar. All right, we're getting ready to go to such and such. And then, we're walking towards it. And then, we kind of get there, and then people kind of the group is kind of standing outside, getting ready to go in. And then I said, you know what, I'm getting ready to actually go back to the hotel. And it's amazing. I so remember these words coming out of his mouth. Rachelle, you're breaking up the group. And it's amazing that I ignored that. And I said, well, I guess I am. And then proceeded to go right on back to by myself right on back to the hotel. And so, bars, people who love them, wonderful, rock on, party on, enjoy them. All I'm saying, once again, what works for one doesn't work for another. That wasn't my scene then, that's just not my scene now. And if it's your scene, you party on, rock on, you enjoy it. But all I'm saying is, I had an opportunity there to cave. And it's amazing in that type of situation where you're on a summer internship and you kind of have that desire to please and you want to kind of fit in and be part of the group, to be well thought of. Particularly for me, that was a big thing for me. For me to actually kind of blow that off and say, well, I guess I am. For me to stand in my truth in that particular, from a confidence standpoint, high pressure moment amazes me to this day, because my confidence was not high enough theoretically for me to have made that decision. So for me, that was a particular instance for me. For you, it's going to be something different. There are going to be different scenarios that are going to present to you, where somebody's going to say, well, hey, let's go do this, or hey, let's do that, or hey, you need to go here, you need to do this, you need to own this, you need to buy this, and you have zero interest in doing it. And so just whoever you are, just remain true to who you are, because if we spend our lives caving and just doing what everyone wants us to do because we're insecure and we lack confidence. And, even deeper than that, to take it a higher level, our self-identity is weak and we just don't know who we are. So the less secure we are in terms of knowing who we are as a person, we're going to be just subject to the whims and desires of, and all of that of other people. Folks, we deserve better than that. Honor who you are, be true to who you are, and whoever you are, whatever you stand for, just, hey, this is me, this is who I am, I'm going to be authentic in this situation. Bam. Because I could have gone in there with him, with a big frown on my face, not saying anything to anybody. Why? Because I could have been internally mad because I'm there and I didn't want to be there, but I caved to peer pressure and was people pleasing, which was a people pleasing big thing for me back in the day. How many times do we do that, folks? I just had to share that example as well. Yes, you go to the gym to talk to other guys. So 6 months in, so we talk about Barksdale Air Force Base, officially where my fitness journey started. And so not right on, we're like 27 years ago. So back in the day, not right at the beginning of when I started, several months later. So I'm dating a guy in the Air Force, airman. And so he says to me, you go to the gym so you can talk to other guys. So the intent behind those words was to try to encourage me and subtly pressure me or manipulate me into to stop going to the gym. To stop going to the gym. And I look back on that, and that wasn't even oh my God, should I do this? Should I listen to him? Should I cave? I totally blew that off. Like you think you're gonna stop me from going to the gym? And so, but folks, and I utilize this example because it happens to a lot of people. You may be in a relationship where somebody, particularly if they're a little bit more on the jealous side, where they don't want you doing things like that, by yourself. Me, I've been a lone ranger in the gym for 27, in November 17th, it'll be 27 and a half years. All right, and so I never caved from that standpoint of, I gotta have somebody to go to the gym with me, or what? No, it's not happening. I'm a lone ranger. It is my me time. I don't care. Bam, that's the answer. But just recognize that I face that. I face that, and a lot of people face that same issue. And in that particular case, in another person, in many people's case, they may go because, they're trying to have weight loss goals, and then they start succeeding, and then they start feeling better about themselves and looking better and attracting more attention, and then that causes problems in the relationship. So just know that fitness can cause friction in relationships. A commitment to fitness can cause friction and does cause friction in relationships. And so stay true to that. Stand in your truth. Be who you are. And that's just a non-negotiable in my life. Has been for 27 plus years. And that is just my me time is my me time, and that's my workout time. And bam, at the end of story. Not caving, not pressuring, nothing. That's just it. So just recognize that. Don't fall to the pressure. Stand in your truth. You want to be healthy. You want to be well. You want to be fit. The journey is not going to be easy. It's just not, for many different respects. All right, next, condo buying experience. So right here, Rachelle's abode, Rachelle's condo. And so what I wanted to highlight in this particular instance was, yes, I had at the time I was in biotech sales, when I bought this condo. And so what I had, in terms of how I would describe it, is one of the world's worst experiences in terms of home buying. And I remember back in the day turning on HGTV and watching My First Home or My First House. I can't remember what the name of that show was called. Back in 2009 when all of this was going on. And seeing these people, and again, looking back now, which has been the full context of understanding and the emotions have waned. But yeah, that's a scripted show. And you know what I mean? It's just very different than what I experienced, the kind of rough and turf experience of real life. So if you recall, back in 2009, we were in a very challenging time economically in this country, and remember the housing bubble had burst, and so a large portion of that, in terms of the depression in the housing market and all of that. Remember, condos were a big challenge because years prior to that, you had all these people buying up all of these condos, flipping them, and then all of a sudden, many of them were underwater, and then a lot of people were just letting them go, and it was just from a lender standpoint. The banks were very tough about lending for condos at the time. And so it was very, very challenging. Very challenging, folks. Where you see me now is actually the fifth offer. It was just rough, it was just problematic from day one. And the fourth condo was, a different property here in Novi. They were all in Novi. And so very, very challenging situation. Oh. And so I'm dealing with realtors, and it was literally my first house. It was a brand new experience for me. And so ultimately what I decided in the end is, okay, these realtors are great. God bless realtors, rock on realtors. But what I decided was, Rachelle, you're a salesperson. You can make this happen on your own. You can deal with this situation and probably certainly much better than what you're experiencing along this path. And so with the fourth offer that I put on, that situation turned really ugly, where the realtor didn't want to give me back my earnest money deposit because the property when the inspection was done, it had come in way lower than the asking price. And so I had to get an attorney to get my earnest money deposit back. But anyway, the fifth offer in my current place, I actually worked directly with the sales consultant with the builder. And so it was a wonderful experience. So when I made that decision, I'm hemming and hawing and having all these problems along the way, and just the light bulb went off like, what, Rachelle, in a moment of confidence, you can do this. Google is your friend. The internet is your friend. You can research this. You can look up everything. You can read. You can empower yourself, and that's exactly what I did. I got a number of concessions, just a great price, a number of concessions on top of that. But it was a wonderful experience when I stepped up to the plate and said, what, Rachelle? You have a sales background. You got this, to borrow from the vernacular. You got this. You can make this happen. And I have no regrets, but I just realized that before I was, well, I don't know about all this stuff, and these other people are more knowledgeable than me, and it was just so problematic. And so sometimes situations in life will force us to step up to the plate where we just have to take responsibility, take charge, and make things happen on our own. So I look back and I have no regrets for that. Next, as we're nearing here towards the end here of my story time, we're going to shift into some resources that have helped me over the years in terms of my confidence journey. Next, Michigan medicine. So I mentioned on a number of episodes, I'm a healthy volunteer for Michigan medicine, also known as the University of Michigan health system. And so have been since 2019, where I first enrolled in the Apple Watch study, which is, I wouldn't have an Apple Watch apart from, with this new technology, maybe another 5 or 10 years. And so I may have gotten an Apple Watch. And so, but yeah, April 30th of 2019. And so, 3 months later was invited to be an advisory panelist for clinical research, but I'm just very, very passionate based on my medical sales background about that. Just allowing, my health and my wellness and my commitment over all of these years to be a benefit to individuals, but from a test of confidence. Historically, one of my motives, something that has been very important to me is recognition. Doing things, achieving things, accomplishing things, and getting recognized. And so, but this was a test initially, because it's kind of, are you willing to commit to do this where you got to drive to Ann Arbor plus or minus 30 miles each way to volunteer for these studies where essentially you are going to be given a participant ID number. Your personal data, Rachelle Smith, date of birth, all of that is going to be de-identified. You're going to be given a number. So 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 3 months from now, when this research is being, tabulated and put together, and things are moving forward from a clinical research standpoint, no one's going to know who you are. There's no recognition in that. And so that was a very big test for me, but I'm very glad I answered the call. And yes, I'm in terms of, I've done a lot of studies here over a number of years, but I'm just so glad that I was willing to take the risk. Like, hey, for somebody who recognition has historically been important to me, I get no recognition. People are not going to know that Rachelle did all of, in terms of, yes, the actual study coordinators themselves, yes, they know who I am, whatever this and that, but my information is be like identified, as I mentioned. So 5 years, people aren't going to know who I am, because there's, some cases, depending on studies, hundreds, or in the Apple Watch study, a lot of participants. And so just an overall, that was overall a big lesson for me, and certainly an area of growth, and I've grown in that. When you're committed enough to something, you really want to make a difference whether you are recognized or not. That has been something that I've learned and I've been willing to do. But there's some confidence, some confidence things that I want to mention, the first of which is my second study. So again, I rolled an Apple Watch back in April of 2019. So in May of 2019, I'm in a second study. And the study coordinator, and so there's kind of a waiting period for that particular clinical research study. And so there's a TV. And so he comes by and he turns on the TV and says, okay, so what's your favorite show on Netflix? And I'm looking at him with a blank stare. None. And he's like, no, what's your favorite show on Netflix? What do you want to watch? I don't watch Netflix. And he's like, you don't watch Netflix? Like, no, I've never watched Netflix. And so, folks, from a confidence standpoint, his reaction, and I was like, no, never watched Netflix. And for the record here we are, September, or, moving into October here, of 2021, still not seen Netflix. All right. And so, but his reaction to me, if in my more self-conscious, less confident years, that reaction of like, well, what's wrong with me that I haven't watched this? Clearly something's wrong with me. I need to be watching this. But once again, folks, there's only so much time. And, I'm very big on ruthlessly protecting my time. And so Amazon Prime Video and YouTube, I can't do it all. I can't manage it all. And so I've had to make some tough decisions regarding my time. But that was just so funny, his reaction to me. It was just so funny, looking back in hindsight now. Next, yes, an automotive research study that I did. And so this wasn't a health study. So sometimes they will pull participants from the health and clinical research studies and asked them to do other type of studies, whether the ISR, the Internet, and the Institute for Social Research. They do a lot of consumer-oriented type research, and the Automotive Research Center. Ton of engineers in the state of Michigan. Their engineering program, particularly there at the University of Michigan, very, very large. We've got the big three, so a lot of automotive research done here in our Metro Detroit area. So I agreed to participate in this study. Long story short, and I had no way of knowing this beforehand, so I get there, and it turns out to be a automotive research study that was based on, just driving, again, driverless. So this automated driving concept that was based on a simulated gaming experience. And I will tell you folks, without any shadow of a doubt, that was one of the biggest disasters of my life, because I didn't have a clue. The last game that I did in terms of participating in games or gaming was like Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, and I had no clue. And that poor study coordinator had to keep constantly walking me through what I was supposed to be doing and what needed to happen. But while it was disastrous, it was also helpful, because they need that. And in clinical research, actually all types of research, you want to have a healthy sample, a representative sample. People that are going to come in there and like, yeah, I game every day for 2 hours a day, that don't know exactly what's going on. Then you have people like me that just don't have a clue what's going on in that instance. But that disastrous experience, certainly didn't diminish my confidence in being a research participant, both inside of medical, in terms of clinical research, within on the health side, and certainly non-clinical, in terms of the automotive and ISR, Institute for Social Research. And ironically, if you look over my shoulder here, you see that Block M in a house. That was a very, very fun study that I did for the Institute for Social Research. And it turned out, because again, I knew it was just going to be a consumer brand, and when I got there, folks, and it was in the home center, so they had it set up like a home, and it was consumer research based. And I found out, I get there, and it's a research study on washing detergents. And so they had washers and dryers set up, and folks, what was so awesome is I love washing clothes. So that study, and it was recorded and everything, and I said, I know the brand teams back in Procter & Gamble are going to love and crack up when they watch me, because you had to identify different scents, and it was just wonderful. And so Gain was actually one of them, and they were, of course, they identified, so you didn't know which was which, and I smelled that Gain, and I said, this is Gain. This is my favorite detergent. So you have no idea how domesticated I am, folks, but I love washing clothes, and it really came out in that particular instance in terms of research. And my last example here in terms of story time for these examples that I pulled up is from a nutrition standpoint. I'm a patient of Michigan medicine, and I do have Dr. Karaginas, who is a sports medicine doctor. He's my external doctor outside of that system, but had him before for several years, and he's just so awesome. So he's still on my doctor's roster, my medical care team. But from a nutrition and dietitian standpoint, and I've shared this in past years in various episodes, back in the day, and I was in biotech sales, and St. John Health, for those locally, St. John Providence in Southfield. I saw a dietitian back in the day, and she's still there, Beverly Cameron. Every couple years or so, I'll send her an email or something like, you were so awesome, and thank you for just your help back in the day. But back then, again, no weight loss goal, but I was saying, you know what, I'm always on the road, I'm in outside sales, so I'm eating fast food, I'm eating all this stuff. And so she made these awesome, recommendations and just some foundational lessons, like make changes slowly and all of that. And so I always look back to that experience and just, what it taught me, but folks, and what I kind of wanted to make with this whole kind of emphasis here on nutrition and dietetics and all of that is, when you're healthy, it can be somewhat more of a challenge when you're seeking, in terms of hospital and medical and healthcare systems, when you're seeking kind of like nutritional advice and nutritional coaching and meeting with a dietitian. It can be a challenge because they kind of look at you like, you're healthy, we're looking at your labs, everything is good, what's the issue? But like in that particular issue, like, yeah, my labs are good and stuff, and I'm just, work out a lot and all of this and that, so it, it helps and all of this and that. But I want to make these changes. And so I had to be willing to kind of go against the grain and do whatever I needed to do in order to meet with her, because I was a self-referral. I was not referred by a doctor. But I I was willing to make that happen because it was important to me back in the day. And of course now, fast forward to Michigan medicine, certainly I was a self-referral again from a nutrition standpoint, dietetic standpoint, and certainly their process has been much easier in that regard, but it still required me to kind of go against the grain and say, yeah, I know I'm healthy, I know my labs look good, but I want to make some tweaks to my diet. I want to, do some things like that in terms of more natural, healthy, fresh foods. And the experience, certainly Michigan medicine has been wonderful. I mean, they've got a team of dietitians, 50 RDs or registered dietitians deep, and they do these nutrition classes, and they're virtual because of COVID. And by the way, disclaimer, this is not, not promoting them, so you can go sign up with Michigan medicine in terms of nutrition advice, just sharing my experience. My personal dietitian, Amy Schneider, is just so awesome and just passionate about what she does and just has a great background. And so when you go back in last week's episode, when I talked to you about how I was in high school and I got this kind of cockamamie idea, for lack of a better word, of I want to create, as a senior in high school, I want to create my own growth spurt. So I'm going to take some caltrate, some calcium supplements. So if I had that type of, I never would have that kind of idea now, but just think, now I have the support of a dietitian. Yeah, let me send that message over the portal to Amy Schneider and have her shut me down and talk about that. That's just not happening. You're just not going to do that. But it's just such an awesome experience. But again, she loves what she does. She's so passionate, and again, the RD piece, the registered dietitian. Like, yeah, she got her undergraduate from Michigan State and her graduate degree in nutrition from Boston, from Northeastern University in Boston, but highly qualified to tell me something about my health. You have to be very careful these days, folks, and I'm going to talk on Fitness Trends about, you have different companies with these health coaches and things like that, and they have no background in nutrition and anything like that, and they're just out promoting all of this stuff and all of these different kind of philosophies and ideologies, and so that has been something I'm just so glad. Years ago, I was willing to go against the grain and say, yes, I know my labs look good, I know I'm healthy, and I know I'm committed to a healthy and fit and well lifestyle, but I want the help. And same thing now, Michigan medicine, I want the help, but I had to be willing to raise my hand and kind of put myself up there and speak up and say, I want the help. I know that a doctor has not referred me, I know this and that, but I'm referring myself, I want the help. And it has been wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And so that's it for story time. And so got a couple of poor tips before I end this episode, but as I'm heading in that direction, I wanted to share a list of resources. I mentioned last time, this is not a product promotion, a product endorsement. These are just some books that have helped me along the way, and I'm going to close this episode out with one in particular that set this confidence journey of mine in motion years ago. So I've got two different categories of books. So in my particular journey, I've got 5 secular books that I'm recommending and 5 religious books, because my journey has been a combination of both, and I just want to be authentic to what has helped me during this journey. So for the secular books, list the books that have helped me. Once again, number 1, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, PhD. Number 2, The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker, PhD. Remember I told you I was a huge people pleaser. Talked about that last week. Number 3, Never Go Back by Henry Cloud, PhD. Number 4, The Tender Heart by Joseph Nowinski, PhD. Number 5, When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Manuel Smith, PhD. 5 religious books that have helped me. Number 1, Purpose Driven Life by Pastor Rick Warren. Number 2, Landmines in the Path of the Believer by the Reverend Dr. Charles Stanley. Number 3, Boundaries by Henry Cloud, PhD, and John Townsend, PhD. Number 4, So Long in Security by Beth Moore. Number 5, Get Out of That Pit by Beth Moore also. So those resources have helped me on this confidence journey, because folks, as I kicked off this entire confidence series by saying, I'm going to challenge you, no matter where you are in your confidence, you can come up higher. You can come up higher. Remember I said there's the 2 components, how I view confidence. The what you can do in terms of your skills, your ability to make things happen and do things, and the who you are aspect of, do you know who you are? Are you secure in who you are? Are you looking to other people to give you a sense of self-worth and identity and purpose? All right, and this is a very tough one, very, very tough one. And I told you, historically, I've been much stronger in this area, but in this kind of who are you, like the old song back in the day, who are you? Who, I really want to know. And so often we'll allude to that song when I'm speaking on confidence in front of a group because it is so true. I really want to, who are you? Do you know who you are? Because if you don't, you better get ready. The society is going to tell you who you need to be, and it may not necessarily be who you are. It often won't be who you are. So this who you are piece, very big challenge, very, very tough, because you're going to have to be, society's going to say you need to do this, have this, be this, live here, all of these different things, wear this, do this. And in many cases, people are kind of falling prey to those type of things. They don't even know who they are anymore, folks. And so we can come up higher. And I want to close this episode out. As I mentioned in the very first episode when I kicked this off, in terms of the who I am aspect of confidence, how I received some very unexpected inspiration. And this person came along. Actually a classmate in the year that graduated at Northwestern before I did, the same program the year before I did, was a big fan, and I had never watched this person or anything like that. And just one morning, I'd come home from the gym and I was getting ready, I was taking a shower, was curling my hair, and there the TV was, in my bedroom. And I'm flipping through the channels, and there this person was. And this person was in the middle of a series entitled, and Church Lady Rachelle, I'm not going to take you too far. Don't worry. You don't have to worry about that. But it was an evangelist by the name of Joyce Meyer. And the series that she was teaching on is called How to Succeed, or was called How to Succeed in Being Yourself. And I'm sitting here curling my hair, and I'm listening to the first time. So I'm listening to this, how to succeed at being yourself. Who tells you that? Who says that? Usually success is dictated on some external principle outside of, who we are. And I just listened to that, and I was like, you know what? I got to order that resource. I got to get that book, and I got to get the CD series, and I did, folks. And this was where it started right here. Again, not a product promotion, just telling you what worked for me, but this is where my confidence journey started back in 2006. So I spent 2006, 2007 really, really digging hard into confidence, both from a religious standpoint and certainly from a secular standpoint, just reading and learning all I could, reading and studying books on insecurity and self-worth and just all of that. Because I knew, you know what, I want to change. My life can be different. And people are going, Rachelle, you're just the happiest person. You're most so upbeat, and you're just this and that. There's a reason why. But again, it didn't just come to me. I had to work for it. I continue to work for it. But just being comfortable. If somebody would have told me, again, back at Seoul American High School in Korea, where I got there and I wanted to be, athletic Rachelle, wanted all of a sudden become skinny. So I had my 24-hour diet that didn't work, and I gave up and just was like, you know what, I don't even need to lose weight. I'm not going on no diet. I'm not staying on a diet. That Rachelle, somebody would have told me back at that point, there's going to be a day where you're going to wake up, you're going to love your life, you're going to be comfortable in your own skin, you're just going to have a zest for living. I would not have believed it. But it started right here in an unexpected place with this person. Because again, hey, I'm in church. I have my different, long years, different church memberships. I have my pastors and their pastoral staff. That's wonderful. That's great. But another lesson in that is that sometimes we have to be willing to open ourselves up and expose ourselves to other teachers. All right. And so that could be in anything, just different resources in life. Be open to learning and growing and developing from whoever the source is. Because if somebody would have told me that particular day where I was curling my hair, getting ready to head to my sales territory, that particular message would turn my life upside down in a positive way. Because there's been years of growth. I continue to work at it. I continue to read and just all of that. Something I'm very passionate about. And so that's why confidence undergirds so much of what I do. So much of it, certainly on these episodes, because I know that with confidence, your life will change and it will be awesome. And I'm going to wrap this episode up with just one key message from her CD series here of How to Succeed at Being Yourself. And it's something I will, in the form of a You know, in a group setting, like in person, I will actually just quote it. But in this, I have total, content control here on Fitness Friday. So I actually play this because, I can play it. So again, there's no doctrine, there's no religious doctrine in this part that I'm about to play. So, Church Lady Rachelle is a professional. Not gonna bring that into this type of secular, Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS. But she makes a very important point about confidence. And I will tell you, in any group that I have quoted this, you want to hear dead silence. You can't really hear dead silence, but the group will become so quiet once I quote this because there's so much truth into what she's saying, folks. Some of you will recognize yourself in her words, but just I encourage you and I implore you today, starting today, your life can change. It can be different. Do whatever you need to do to make a positive change. So let me play it here. Just a very, very short clip, but very powerful clip.
Accept ourselves and love ourselves. We have nothing to give to anybody else. If you have a poor self-image and you're extremely insecure, it will affect your parenting. If you have a poor self-image and you're extremely insecure and you don't like yourself, it's going to affect your marriage. You will not have a good marriage, and I'll tell you why. That other person you're married to will feel like they have to spend all their time keeping you fixed. Well, I know that's the way Dave felt when we were married. He couldn't confront me. Because if a person's insecure, you don't dare ever tell them that they're wrong about anything because they already feel so wrong. If you tell them that they made a mistake or did something wrong, they will blow up. You cannot be honest with people that are insecure. You cannot confront them. You have to be very careful to compliment them many, many, many times every day. Come on now, I'm just telling you the truth. And
there it is.
You know what I found
there
out?
It is.
It really is.
There it is. And that whole notion, something that stuck with me over the years, is that notion of having to keep someone fixed. There's different ways we can describe that. A high maintenance person, somebody you have to constantly build up and prop up every single day. We've all known people like that. And how draining and exhausting it is in any personal situation, professional situation, community situation. And so that they just served as such a catalyst for me to say, you know what, Rachelle, you got to work on your confidence. You got to make sure you're not the one that people are having to prop up and make feel good about yourself. I want to be able to go through life, and I kind of highlighted this in a previous Posi-TIPS episode 2 or 3 years ago. If I had a measuring cup at the time, but it's like I want to have a full glass. I want to have a full measuring cup. I want to have a full pitcher of water that I'm going around pouring into other people. I don't want to walk around with an empty one with everyone else because I'm so insecure and low self-esteem and low self-worth that it's everybody else's job to constantly pour into my pitcher to make me feel good about myself. And this is a big one, folks. And I know there's some people that are shaking up right now after hearing that. Because those words of hers are going to help some people. In some challenging relationships, some eyes are being opened as people are saying, oh my goodness, I do that to my spouse. Or, oh my goodness, I expect my 5-year-old child to build me up and validate me when the truth doesn't matter. The parent it should be the other way around. And that's why negative self-image, low self-esteem, low self-worth, folks, it is detrimental to our lives. But we don't have to stay there. Today, things can change. Whatever you need to do, whatever your journey needs to be, whatever help you need to undertake, whatever process you need to undergo, please do it for yourself. Life can be different. Life can be so awesome. You can be so happy, secure, and confident, but it's just not going to happen on its own. It's just not. It's been, a 15-year journey for me, and it's still going on. It's still going strong, and it's still going to go on to the day that I depart this earth, folks. And so, I'm always very passionate. I tell you, very passionate about your success, your happiness, and all of that, folks. But you need to be passionate about it as well, because that's where the changes start. So you can do it. You can do it. I'm living proof of that. So I always like to share my own confidence journey whenever there's time. This is the end of this particular series. I do have some more examples, a couple of examples for confidence and leadership, I'm going to have one orphan episode on confidence and leadership. I'm going to talk more about confidence and leadership and how confidence is important, because leaders who have no confidence, you're not going to be able to hold people accountable. People are not going to be performing, particularly whether it's sales or anything else. It's just going to be a very, very tough challenge. I'm going to talk more about that in an episode before the end of the year. So, but I'm going on hiatus, filming hiatus. So I will be back. You will be seeing my face here, but I've got some filler episodes here coming up for you. So this is time for my fall hiatus. Like I told you earlier this year, I've taken a hiatus, a filming hiatus every season of the year. Didn't used to do that years ago. And so just stay tuned for that. You enjoy these filler episodes, but remember, your life can be different. It starts today if you decide for it to. And so stay tuned for the next series that I kick off. Can't wait, can't wait. But until then, remember, I am positively passionate about your fitness, success, and confidence. Make it a great day.